The next thing we want to do is make first contact with one of our AMCI SMD17E2 devices. To do that, you have to know its current assigned IP address. If it's at the factory default, then it's 192.168.0.50. If that doesn't work for you, then you need to go to something like this, Wireshark. Looks like it's open platform, nonprofit, and go in and maybe watch a video on how to use it and figure out what the IP address is assigned to your SMD. Otherwise, we can just go up. We could just go up to our field there and type in 192.168.0.50. And voila. This is the built-in web page for that AMCI device. If it wasn't there, this would not come up. You would see the same thing that you see anytime you go on the web and you type in a URL or something, and it comes up and it's not found. So here we found it. And as you can see right here, that the IP address is set to 192.168.0.50. Ordinarily, you would probably just go to network setup here, pick your network, and then change your details. However, if you want to write a new firmware version, and now this happens to be the latest. The day that I did this, it was 1.0.29. But let's say that it wasn't. You would then have to open up another piece of software called Device Firmware Update. Now, this is not tricky, but you have to remember this. In order for you to update the firmware using this piece of software right here, AMCI Device Update Utility, and this is the current version today. Before you can do this, you have to select Update the Firmware, and you're going to have to enter a password. And of course, you don't have a password, and I can't tell you the password they gave me because I don't know if it changes or not. But in order to go in and update the firmware on your AMCI devices, you're going to have to contact AMCI tech support and tell them you want to update your firmware, or at least check it or update it. They're going to ask you for the serial number of your device. So if you think this is an issue, get all of your serial numbers lined up in advance, then call them and they will give you a password. And when you enter the password here, you can then put just that device you're connected to into the update mode. When you do that, the LEDs on the device itself, there's two of them. Right now they might be flashing green. The top one's usually solid green and the bottom one's blinking green. When you put it in the update mode, they're going to go to red instead of green. So you have to use this software right here, or this, if you want to call it URL or Ethernet connection, to update the firmware, but that doesn't update it. It only puts it in the update mode. Then you have to go back to this other piece of software, and from here, you're going to do your actual update. But understand this, that you can't download the firmware from AMCI. So not only do they need to give you a password, they're going to have to send you the new version of the firmware, and then you can go from here. So I'm not going to go any further. I can say connect just to see what it's going to say. Another thing you're going to notice, it's going to run you through some power cycle instances. Now see, I did not put that device into the firmware update mode. So I can't, simply because it's already at the current 1.0.29. But if I had used update firmware here, entered the password, proceed to firmware update, it's kind of misleading because when you click on this button, it doesn't proceed to firmware update. It simply puts that device in the firmware update mode. Then you go over here and you do the connect, and it will find it if it's in the update mode, and if it does, then you have to follow the instructions. I can't do that because all of mine are up to date. So that's how you do a firmware update. Now I'm not going to do a firmware update, so I'm going to close this down. I'm going to go to network setup, and this particular one is at 50. I want it to be 40, so I'm simply going to change that to 40 and say write configuration. Writing configuration, please wait. Notice, please cycle power to the AMC unit. I'm going to do that. It doesn't say wait 10 seconds, but I usually count to 10 just to hedge my bets. Okay, it says please cycle power. Now, it told me to cycle power, and I did it. Now it's saying please cycle power again. I honestly don't know if you have to do it twice or not, but we're going to find out. So we'll leave that there, and we're going to go to our project. You can see I'm in the run mode, and look, there's all the yellow triangles are gone. That's 40. That's the one I just changed from 50, and there was a yellow triangle here until I did what I just did. Now it's gone. It's finding all three of them at their appropriate IP addresses. So that is the extent right there what you have to do to connect up these integrated stepper motor packages from AMCI into your Studio RS Logic 5000 project.